Greetings. Let's talk for a moment. So, I've been playing long enough to say this, but back in my day, sprout another gray hair as I say that, the SCA was arguably one of the most tactile organizations I ever met. Um, Even casual acquaintances were met with hugs. It was downright normal to see men greet each other with a kiss on the cheek. Um, I, I think I had more hugs in my first two SCA events, which were about 3 weeks apart, than I did in the previous 5 years of mundane living. It was cultural, and we still are in many respects. Still a very tactile organization. People who mundanely, if I were to run into them, I would greet with a handshake. I know for a fact that when I've run into them at SCA events, it's an open arm flying hug, and for some of them, it's the big manly rib cracking, who's going to yield first, pop your back hug. But the current situation has brought to light something that I think we all have forgotten about. Some of us never stopped to think about, and I was one of them. And that is the culture that mundanely we call it the culture of consent. But in reality, what it is, it's a type of respect that we've made an assumption about. I just assumed that everyone I met in the SCA wanted to be greeted with a hug, and for 98% of them, that was absolutely the case. Um, and it has come to my attention recently that that is not the case. There are people who have physical reactions to hugs, physical reactions to any unsolicited contact. Um, and that is, this is not, I don't like hugs. We're talking about panic attacks. I mean, like heart racing, adrenaline dump panic attacks. This is not something that they can just get over. We're triggering a physiological reaction which could hospitalize them in some cases. I know when I found that out, I was horrified at my own conduct because I had inadvertently triggered one of these attacks. And this is someone I hold in the highest regard, and it mortified me that I was responsible for that. And I just think it's not that I'm accusing anyone of being crass or mean spirited. It's not the case. Almost the overwhelming majority of people in the SCA I know are kind hearted, well meaning, excellent people. Just none of us, or a lot of us, never got told to sit back and keep in mind that not everyone wants to be greeted with a hug. And now with COVID, that takes on a whole new level. But the reality is that this was no better before COVID. There are people who put up with the hugs but never like them. And now that I'm aware of that, I'm ashamed, because I was one of the people that just would walk up and hug them, and it's miserable. I mean, I'm miserable when I think about it. We're so used to catchphrases like "in my space" or "bodily autonomy," and we hear them so often, and they're so mundane that it's too easy for us to blow them off and say that doesn't apply in the SCA, or to start talking down about the people that say them. But the reality is that underneath those words, underneath those terms, which have lost their meaning in all of the mundane clutter that we live in, there are people who don't want other people in their space. And at the end of the day, that is something we all need to keep in mind. So, what does that mean? What does that mean for you? You, the veteran player, you, the count, you, the duke. What does that mean for you, the peer? And what does it mean for you, the new player? Actually, it's real simple. All this is prelude for a real simple thing. We need to add one step into the formality of our greetings, because we all have the basics down. If they outrank us, you bow, you smile, you stand up, and then you probably are going to give each other big hugs because you're friends. That's the way most of my friends, even the peers I know, their excellencies. You know, if it's in a public setting and there's formality, I bow because that's appropriate. There, I want to respect their rank. I want to show off their rank, and then we hug. And if you're the same rank, you meet with a handshake or you bow to each other, and then you hug. Okay, that's cultural for us. That's where a lot of us greet. Add one step in. Just add one. Just stop. When you run up to each other, just before you collide, go hug. And if they say no or if they shudder, then put your arms down. It's not an offense. They're not mad at you. That's not a slap in the face. That's not disrespecting SCA culture. They just don't want to hug. And it's your job as a person of respect to honor that request. And maybe they did hug you an hour ago. You still ask again. A lot can change in an hour. Ask my teenager. He switches moods faster than I switch socks. And frankly, he comes by it honestly because I'm the same way. There are times I've been absolutely conversational at 10 o'clock in the morning. And at 11:30, I don't want to talk to anyone. And we as a culture have just forgotten that. We think everyone wants to be greeted with a hug. Okay, I get it. That's where we came from. Just add that one step, guys. One step. When you walk up to someone, you know, the handshake, the bow, whatever your initial gestures, before you sit there and collide, you go, hug. And if they say yes, crack ribs and pop backs. That's what we're here for. Kiss on each cheek. It's good to see someone. And if they say no, not today, or I'd rather not, okay, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're here. How you doing? From 3 feet away, right where you belong. That's how we do this. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the modern. It's not about COVID. It's not about personal space. It's not about any of the mundane modern terms we're used to hearing about. It's about respect. Do you respect someone else's wishes about how they wish to be approached? If the answer is yes, then that's the protocol. We need to ask for their permission. And if the answer is no, then you need to find the door and leave. Because the society is built on respect. So, that's my soapbox for the day. I look forward to seeing all of you at the next event. Goodbye, and God bless. Oh, and by the way, I generally like hugs. So if you come up to me and you say hug, get ready for a big one.